Ferris wheel interviews with the one and only JD McPherson. How you doing, JD?
I'm doing all right, except I have an irrational fear of water, sand, sunshine, and, may stress this very clearly, complete paralyzing fear of Ferris wheels.
Yeah. So we got it all together for you.
I think it'll be okay, though. We'll be all right, man. I'll keep it together.
What was your version of the Santa Monica Pier growing up in Tulsa? What was the place you guys would go?
Oh man, I got one, and unfortunately it's no longer there. But that was Bell's Amusement Park. Bell's Amusement Park was just a good, old-fashioned amusement park, and you ride the Himalaya. But the best ride to me was the Phantasmagoria, which was a spook house. It had the car, and you go in the dark, and they had skeletons that jump out, and that was just the coolest, man. Unfortunately, that's all gone.
What's it like to, still stick it out in the hometown like you do?
Well, man, Tulsa is a really awesome city. People are starting to figure that out, but there's some really, really cool things happening, especially the downtown area. Really great food. There's tons of interesting people around there and so much history. Great Art Deco architecture, incredible music venues that have been there since the turn of the 20s really. Kane's Ballroom is the most important music venue in Tulsa. It's where Bob Wills, the Texas Playboys, made their home.
Oh, wow.
Everyone from Hank Williams to the Sex Pistols have played Kane's Ballroom. And it's a lot of people's favorite place to play. I know Elvis Costello, Jack White, guys from Wilco, they all say that's their favorite American venue. A lot of them end their tours there.
Yeah.
And the first time I got to play Kane's was a huge honor, and then every time I go back, it still is.
First time I heard Northside Gal, I was like, holy, what is this unearthed, amazing song I never knew existed, and who is this dude? And when did that sound, when did that direction come to you? I mean, was that a long process to realize that's where you belong?
Well, yeah, it took a really long time. I started getting into early rock and roll when I was kind of into just, a more present form of rock and roll when I was about 15 or 16 years old. Listening to a lot of the stuff my older brothers were listening to. They were into Cream and Zeppelin and Hendrix and Allman Brothers and all that stuff. So I got into that first because it's what they were into and I was into guitar. And then I started getting into punk rock and some of the weird new wave stuff that happened in the 80s and 90s. And of course, when I was in high school, there was some good music to be found in the semi-mainstream, like the Pixies and Nirvana was a great band for me to latch onto as a young guy. But I've always been fascinated with how things happen and what bands influenced the bands that I liked. And when I found out that the Pixies have a big surf influence. Mm-hmm. That was really cool, and I didn't know that until I heard bands like, The Ventures with that kind of wet reverb and guitar-based stuff. And so, man, every band you've ever heard in your life has some really important influence. They may not be immediately apparent until you do a little bit of digging. Digging, for me, was what ended up being the main point, the most salient point. Finding the early modes of rock and roll music was the most satisfying thing to me. So it was a long, for a lot of bands, a lot of weekend gigs, figuring it all out. But yeah, so if you spend enough time on something, it can pay off for you.
Yeah. How's it feel to play the Santa Monica Pier?
This is I don't even know what to say.
You could be an aquatic or oceanic animal. What would it be and why?
I would probably have to say I would like to be the blue whale.
The blue whale?
Nothing really attacks it, and it's kind of got free reign to do kind of whatever, and it lives a long life. It's a very important part of the ecosystem of the ocean.
Yes.
So yeah, just to be helpful and productive, and the blue whale is the one to be, I think.
Yeah. As is your music. It's a helpful part of the musical ecosystem out there.
That's really what we consider ourselves to be, as the blue whale
of rock and roll.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, JD.
Thanks,
We're gonna take the rest of this time to enjoy the beautiful surroundings and see when they let us off this thing.
Okay, I'm gonna try to let go of the side now.
Yeah, all right.